Hello crafters and welcome to the March 2024 release video hot by Altenew. My name is Deepa from Designs by D, and I have these two cards that I'm going to be sharing with you today made from the products from the release. Now keep in mind these releases now have not only the monthly products, but they also have the full release for the month. Now in terms of the giveaway, this is going to be done a little differently. So I am going to give you the emoji that I want you to post in the comment down below later on in this video. And when you hear it, make sure to comment down below with that emoji so we know that you have watched our videos and that you like them. Now, I also recommend that you go through the hop list and visit the other great designers. And please do consider subscribing to their channel and giving their video a thumbs up along with this one. So let's go ahead and take a look at these products. So I have a whole slew of them here. I won't be using all of them, but I did want to give you a quick look at them. These are two embossing folders. There's the wicker and that leafy one that are part of the actual release. We've got the elegant tulips. These three, the stencil, stamp, and the dies work together. Now again, we won't be using this one, but that's part of the full release. Then we've also got this here, which is the dynamic duo. We will be using these ones. So we have the stencil, the dies, and also a add-on stamp set that you can get with this. So those all come together. And then next we have the rustic rose. So this is part of the release too. The stamp and the dies, we are going to be using these to make one card, and we're going to be using the dynamic duo to make a different card. And then there are also these gorgeous clear drops, which I found useful on all of my projects. I really like the clear because you can use them on everything. You don't have to match the color, and it just looks like beautiful water droplets. So the first step for this first card that I'm making is to use the embossing folder. This is the Rustling Leaves embossing folder with a red piece of cardstock. This is A2 sized. I did spray it with a bit of water there in order to make sure that nothing cracks as I put it through my die cutting machine. And I did add some ink here. Now I'm using some Vineyard Berry. This is like the deepest color from its color family. And you'll notice that the panel I'm using is like a bright like lipstick red, whereas the ink is darker. So we're really darkening the edges and drawing your eye in towards the center. You can see I added a little bit of jet black here to really darken that color and add more dramatic, more of a dramatic element to it. So the next step is to grab your stamp. So this is the Rustic Rose, and I'm just going to stamp out the rose using some Copic Safe ink because I will be doing some coloring with my Copics, and we don't want that ink to run or smudge. So I'll just stamp it out here using my Altenew stamp wheel, and I did stamp it twice to get a nice crisp line there. Now I'm using my Copics. I've got the colors that I'm using listed in the top left of the screen if you are curious, and I'm just using a flicking motion. I love doing this with flowers. That flicking motion kind of like creates the like the texture in the leaves, and it just gives it like a beautiful look. And then when you mix the colors together and they kind of blend together, it just looks really nice. So I started with the mid-tone here, and I'm just kind of coloring in my edges, and I'm taking it like halfway up. And then I'm going to take the darker color, and then I'm going to kind of deepen the edges and create more of a shadow. And then I'll take the lighter color to kind of blend it out and create my highlights. Now, I'm not going to show you the entire coloring process because, I mean, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just doing that flicking. I'm trying to make sure I get my shadows where I need them and my highlights where I want them, and that's pretty much all I'm doing. So there's nothing too complicated to it. And you'll notice that the lighter color I'm using is more of a muted tone, and I really like the look of this with the other two brighter, deeper reds. So now I'll move on to my greens in order to color in the stem and leaves there. And I'm doing the exact same thing. Now you'll notice that this stamp is pretty detailed in itself. So you can kind of follow the lines of the stamp to figure out where you're going to want your deepest colors. And I did put the darkest color along like the veins of the leaf and like the top and bottom of the stem. And same thing with those little leaves sticking out from beneath the flower. And you'll notice here I only use 2 greens because I don't have too much area to fill in. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out using the coordinating die. So this rustic rose is going to be my focal point for my card. So as I mentioned before, we had darkened the edges to draw your eye into the center, and at the center is going to be this beautiful rose. Now let's go ahead and stamp out, well, I'm actually going to heat emboss my sentiments. So I've got 2 of them here. And they're from the same rustic rose stamp set, so everything is included in that set. So if you were to make this card, you would only really need the embossing folder and the stamp and die for the rustic rose. Now I've stamped out 2 sentiments, and I'm using some Altenew rose gold embossing powder here. This is like my favorite embossing powder because I just love that it has a really nice antique gold color to it. It's not really too rosy. I really like that. I guess you could say it's really subtle, and that's kind of like the beauty in it. So now I'm taking the coordinating dies and cutting out those sentiments. And once that's done, I can kind of assemble my card here. So I'm attaching a black piece of cardstock to my white card base. I always like to keep the insides of my cards white, so I will put whatever extra color I need on top. Now I did cut down that red panel that we had inked up and embossed. So I've got a little bit of a black border around it. And I'm adding my sentiment to some gold glitter cardstock. And I find that that just gives it like a nice shiny, like extra little piece of something, you know? I don't know what to call it exactly. It's a je ne sais quoi. But it looks really nice. So all I did was basically just cut out the same sentiment using the sentiment die from some gold glitter cardstock, and I've added that not only on this sentiment here, but also I'm going to add it on the bottom sentiment. So this one I cut out with the coordinating die. You'll notice that the next one, there is no coordinating die for that because it's the sub sentiment, so I'm just cutting it out in a strip. I've cut like a little angle there on the edge, and I'm lining it up with another piece of that gold glitter cardstock, so that's going to kind of stick out from the edge as like a shadow. And I'm propping it up with some foam adhesive. Now I'm adding foam adhesive wherever I can. I really like the idea of dimensions, so I add it for the sentiment, I added it for the rose. It just kind of helps the image kind of pop off the page along with the sentiment, and it all just gives like a nice variation of depth. You've got the sentiment and the main image kind of a little higher. You've got the raised edges from the embossing in the background, and then the actual just plain color in the back. Now, just to spruce up this flower a little bit and give it a bit more sparkle, I'm adding some stickles here. It's just diamond stickles, so it shines all beautiful colors of the spectrum. And now I'm going to use those gorgeous clear enamel dots, which I have to say are a must-have because they just, as I said, they go with everything. So moving on to card number 2. We're going to be using that dynamic duo set. Now, I did have a little bit of an issue because my cardstock is only so big in the Altenew stamp wheel. And I would recommend, in this case, you might want to take the actual sticky mat out of the stamp wheel because you're not actually stamping. I'm just using it to hold my stencils in place, right? So there's always that option there. I always forget that you can do that. And then you're not kind of confined to the well of the stamp wheel. Now, I did kind of place my die on the cardstock to kind of see where it's going to fit and which orientation I can fit 2 of these because I'm going to end up inking up 2 of these from the stencil. I put on the second stencil so I can have an idea of where all the leaves are going, and then I put on the first stencil so I can kind of line up the flowers. Then I removed that second stencil, and now I'm inking it up using Pink Diamond, Pinkalicious, and I think I use a bit of Rubelite. And I'm also going to add some browns and then some greens to that, and I'm showing you how I've used the stencil to ink up one of these gorgeous like stems and there's 2 flowers in it, and then off camera I'll do the second half. Now this the stencil set is pretty simple to use. Once you've done it once, you're like an expert. You know exactly where you've gone wrong and what to do. I didn't have too much of an issue with it. The only problem I had is, as I said in the beginning, I just kind of had to line everything up to make sure it would fit on my piece of cardstock twice. So I basically use one and then you notice that they're sectioned off. So if you've used these stencils before, you kind of know how it goes. And you just, once you've lined up one of them, you just keep lining up the rest. You'll see that the next one that you're supposed to do, it's lettered and numbered, it's alphanumeric, and you'll see that the first bit that you stenciled kind of has an outline on the second portion you're supposed to stencil. So it flows. It's pretty intuitive. So now I'm using some browns here to do the center of the flower before I move on. I can't remember. I think this is Rocky Shore. And as you notice, I'm not coloring it, like I'm not adding ink to the entire area that's open in the stencil. I'm kind of making the ink a little heavier on one side and a little lighter on the other. And you've probably seen this done before. It's pretty common. And all it does is it creates a bit more depth, and it gives you those shadows and those highlights that you would get if you were to stamp, you know, the different layers. So instead of having the multiple layers to stamp, you're inking them up. And by adding, you know, a bit darker ink on one edge, you get a beautiful look. So actually, I didn't go with greens here. I went with some grays. So I'm using like the limestone. I can't remember all of the ones from that group, but yeah, there's silver stone here. So I'm using these to fill in the leaves. I just thought that it really helps that pink really pop and stand out, and we're going to be putting it on a black background, so I really wanted that to be like the main focus of the card. So now I have done the leaves and then the shadow portion of the leaves. I'm going to line up the stems, and I'm going to use the darkest color here to kind of just fill in the stems. Really simple to do. You don't have to do any like variation and like of pressure here to get a darker or lighter tone. We just fill it in completely. And that's our stem for our leaves done. And there you go. Now don't worry if you get any bit of ink on the outer edges, you're going to die cut this. So you can see I did the second stem or group of leaves and flowers. I'm cutting this in half, and then I'm going to die cut both of those using the coordinating die. Now once I've cut both of those out, I'm going to go ahead and do some extra coloring. So all I'm doing here is I've grabbed a black Copic, and I'm just, you know, the little border that you get there from the die cut. And here you have a little extra because you have the places around the stem as well that you want to color in. I'm coloring all of that in. This takes a little bit of time, but I guarantee you it's worth it, because in the end you get that really pop. Like this image really pops on the black background. When you have the white border, it doesn't pop as much because you've already got that white in there, so it kind of washes together with the rest of the colors. But when you do this, you get a really dramatic effect. So I've not only colored in the edge, but you can see here, I'm actually adding black to the very edge of it, like where it cuts, because I don't want any of that white to show. I want it to be really black and kind of just blend in with the background. Now that I've done that to both pieces, I'm going to do my sentiment here so I can get an idea of how this would all come together. I've got just a note, and I'm going to heat emboss that as well, just as I did before. I'm going to be using the Altenew Rose Gold Embossing Powder again because I just love it. Like you can see my container is running out. I think I have a second one. I did buy it way back when, but it's my absolute favorite. And you probably hear it in all of my videos. I'm sorry I say it every single time, but it's just, I love it. I love it. I love it. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss this, melt this to the paper, and look at how gorgeous that is. I just love like the muted gold. It goes with everything. I think that's part of the reason why I like it. It's just versatile. Just like those clear enamel dots, these types of products are like year-round products that you can use on everything, and that's why I love them so much. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've cut out that sentiment. Now let's kind of put this card together. So this is just plain black cardstock. It's A2 sized. I'm going to just add some foam adhesive to the back here. And I've kind of figured out where I want this to go. So I'm not adding that foam adhesive to the entire die cut, just to the portion that I want to attach. I'm going to have it hanging off the edge, and then I'm just going to cut off the overhanging bit. Now I'm going to use this overhanging bit elsewhere on the card just to create like a kind of background or a design. You can see I'm kind of placing it all over. I'm not exactly sure where I want to put it. And you can do some of this too. It's all part of the design like recipe. You kind of have to play around and see what looks best to you, what looks best to your eye. I have to say that I'm probably the least patient with this. You can see me moving it around a lot, but sometimes I move it here, there, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to commit. You're going here and that's it. And whether it looks great or not, I just go with it. It really doesn't matter too much as long as you keep in mind where exactly you want to put your sentiment and leave just a little bit of space for that. Now, as you can see, I only have 4 flowers, and I did contemplate making a 5th one to kind of even that out. Like, you know that odd numbers are more aesthetically pleasing, but I thought when I put my sentiment on here, it's going to look okay. That's like my 5th element. So I've gone ahead and left it with the 4 flowers. I'm adding some foam adhesive to the back of the sentiment that I cut with the coordinating die and heat emboss with that embossing powder that I love so much. And I'm just going to attach it. And it actually looks really gorgeous. That sentiment fits in perfectly right there on the side. And it all kind of came together really nicely. Okay, so the last part of my video is adding those clear drops. Now I'm going to give you that emoji that I told you that I wanted you to put in the description below in order to indicate that you've watched my video and hopefully liked it. Please put a purple heart down below. I would love to see the purple heart emoji. It's one of my favorites. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and you watched till the end. Please do hop along on the hop and comment along. Pay attention to the video. Some people may use the emoji, some people may not. But purple emoji heart, okay? I hope you guys have a great day. Please don't forget to comment to enter the purple emoji heart. I'm saying it again, and I will definitely love to see you again. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want. All the links to all the products are linked within the description below. There's a link to the shop, and I wish you luck. I hope that you win. Have a great day. Bye.